Welcome to Fake Love and Flying Monkeys, the podcast where fake love is exposed. I'm Nova Gibson and I am your host. I'm the principal counsellor at Brighter Outlook Narcissistic Abuse Counselling.com.au. This space is dedicated to helping you reclaim your worth and understand the impact of toxic relationships with suspected narcissists. You deserve clarity, healing, and freedom from the pain of fake love and flying monkeys. So please leave a review and grab a copy of my book, Fake Love, Understanding and Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. Let's uncover the truth and take back your power. Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Fake Love and Flying Monkeys. What type of personality is the covert narcissist drawn to? Who are they attracted to? You would not believe how many times I get asked this question by my clients who come to see me in their narcissistic abuse recovery. But what I really think they're asking when they say this is, what is it about me who keeps attracting these types of people who continuously use me as a doormat and treat me so badly and never allow me to have any needs of my own? Why do I keep finding the same sort of toxic individuals that treat me so badly? So to begin with, I just want you all to know that you do not attract toxic, narcissistic individuals. There is not something deficit or broken in you that makes you this magnet for people who want to abuse. You may find yourself in one abusive relationship after the other that seem very, very similar for a number of reasons. One of those reasons being that narcissists seek out people with core wounds. They sniff them out like a shark swimming around, sniffing out the smell of blood, if that makes any sense. They are drawn to people who have these core wounds from child abuse, from past traumatic relationships, individuals who may not even know that they have these core wounds, and the narcissist loves to be the hero in the beginning. That's exactly the opposite of someone who's hurt you in the past, and then they love to repeat exactly what that last abuser did to you. So core wounds will definitely make you more susceptible to being abused by a narcissist and finding yourself in the proximity of these types of abusive individuals, simply because that environment feels so familiar to you, and you could be mirroring the relationship with a toxic parent, or healthy relationships just appear so foreign and strange to you that those are the relationships that you think that there's something wrong with. They're boring, or there's just something you'll find wrong with them because they're not toxic. In other words, they're not familiar to you. So you find yourself in the safe, familiar zone of what you recognize. It's almost like better the devil you know, because you know how to handle these abusive environments, those healthy relationships. What are you doing there? But it's also my belief that you don't have to have those core wounds that we hear about so often to find yourself in a relationship where you become trauma bonded to a narcissist, because sometimes it's just the fact that you were in the right proximity to them. They loved the challenge of having someone who appears so happy, successful, no type of trauma in their background, or not that they know of. And the narcissist loves the ability to tear someone like that down simply because you present as a challenge. So yes, I just wanted to make that clear, guys, because it just sounds like such a victim blaming statement when we say that, well, you just keep attracting all of these horrible people. And what does the victim think? They think, well, there's got to be something horrible in me if they're falling for me all the time. That's the only type of person I can attract. It's kind of like that statement, you attract who you are. If you're happy and successful and you've done all the hard yards and you've done all the counseling and healing work, that you'll never find yourself in the vicinity of one of those toxic people who is going to be horrible to you, because that little part of you, that horrible part, that doesn't exist anymore, where it's more so that in your healing work, your boundaries that are going to be invincible will not allow those toxic individuals to use you as a doormat again. And that's not to say that in your healing journey, with all the work that you do on rebuilding your self-worth and your self-esteem, that you're not more likely to find yourself in a healthy, loving relationship, someone who treats you with respect. It's just that with the boundaries that you have and the new self-worth, etc., you're going to see those red flags in another individual, and they are going to be deal breakers for you. So, of course, it's more likely that you're going to find yourself surrounded by people who respect you, because you're going to be seeing those red flags and you're not going to be painting them a different color. You're not going to be hanging out with these toxic individuals for an extended period of time, because they're still familiar and in your mind as good as it gets. Yes, I think that statement, you are what you attract, or you attract what you are, is a bit misleading, because what's a victim who has done nothing wrong and they've been abused again and again and again, and they're hearing that statement, you attract what you are? Well, that implies that they're attracting that abusive person again and again because that's who they are. But for the purpose of this episode, let's just take a look at some classic personality traits that the narcissist will make a beeline for if they spot those in you, because of course, once again, they're a predator and they spend their whole lives honing the skills around how to find the perfect victim and how to control and manipulate that victim. So I think the first thing that I'm going to talk about in terms of traits, personality traits of a classic narcissistic abuse victim, is the empath, someone who has empathy. Now, we all like to think that this is something that every human being possesses. It's not something that you kind of think of putting on a profile, say on social media. I'm high on empathy. By the way, guys, if you see that on a profile, run a mile, because if someone has to announce they have empathy, there's a reason for it. We should just assume that someone has empathy. So having empathy, you are naturally compassionate and you're tuned in to the suffering of others. You would never intentionally hurt anyone else, and you would certainly be there if you saw that someone else was hurting. You want to help, you want to support and heal the people around them. And this is the covert narcissist dream scenario. And at the time when they're grooming you and they're scoping you out and they're learning about your weaknesses and your vulnerabilities, you're probably one of those human beings who assumes that everyone has empathy. It's not something that you generally have to announce. But now you know these people exist, and you know that the person that you have been abused with, or if you know someone who has, they're devoid of this very quality, but they are going to look out for the quality in their victims because they know that victim will be easier to abuse. Not knowing anything about narcissism, as most people don't, when they're being abused, if they haven't been abused by one before and they haven't had that support and engaged in that research, you will be assuming this person in front of you possesses empathy like you assume every other human being does. And so the narcissist knows that you're going to excuse their toxic behavior as part of their wounds. You're going to try really hard to work out emotionally what's going on for them when they're giving you the silent treatment, for example. You're going to do most of the work in this relationship, and you're going to, without knowing it, develop this incredibly high threshold for abuse, and you're going to blame yourself for the narcissist's unhappiness. And narcissists love the people pleaser, which I really hate. I don't like that term because, once again, it sounds victim blaming. But really what we're referring to when we're saying that we're a people pleaser or that someone else is a people pleaser, what we're saying is that they have a lack of boundaries and they've never been allowed to have any needs of their own, and it's just their normal to look after everyone else and never to expect that you should be allowed to have any needs of your own. So being a people pleaser or having a lack of boundaries will make you more likely to want to avoid conflict. You've been taught that you're always wrong and that it's just so much easier to say yes, even when you want to say no. And you've been taught to take responsibility for everyone else's feelings and, of course, to put the needs of others above your own. You've even been conditioned to believe that it is selfish to do anything for yourself. And victims, even when they get out of these abusive relationships and they start to do things in their own interests, in their self-care to try and heal, they still have this niggly feeling that what they're doing is selfish, it's wrong, and they should be devoting that time to helping someone else. The predatory covert narcissist is also attracted to that high achiever or the performer because you're going to make them look good. This type of narcissist wants someone who shines, who's intelligent, attractive, successful, socially up the ladder, well-liked. And at first, you think it's admiration. They really respect you and admire you. But the truth is that they're seeking someone who's light, whose aura they can drain. And once they have convinced you that it's those amazing qualities you possess that they find so attractive about you, those things will be the very qualities they try to destroy in you further down the track in the relationship, because it's those qualities that actually make them feel inferior. Yes, they'll compliment you early on and tell you how wonderful you are, only to gradually, insidiously undermine that confidence of yours. They're actually threatened by all of your achievements, and they will find every way in the book to downplay them. They'll withhold their affection if you're doing well, but they'll swoop in like a vulture when the attention they need from you and your success is something that will boost them up. In other words, they'll take advantage of your successes when it suits them, but they will actually attempt to erode your pride, your confidence away if it's making them feel bad about themselves, because of course they're not as successful as you are. And why do they do this? Well, they do it because of that pathological envy of theirs. They never celebrate your success. They actually feel envious of you, but they can't just go and express that openly. They have to chip away at you insidiously. So over time, if you're a high achiever who was once this confident person, you become unsure, insecure, and actually dependent on the narcissist's approval and for validation of your self-worth. Of course, the covert narcissist is going to be looking for someone who is loyal. That loyalist who, of course, is the exact opposite of the narcissist, who has no qualms in having 10 relationships on the go at once because they feel entitled to. They want someone who is loyal, who would never dream of cheating on them. They know that the extremely loyal individual will stand by your man, as Tammy Wynette once said, or stand by your woman. And they know that that person will stay way after the relationship has turned toxic and will give them endless chances. And you'll confuse suffering with depth and passion, and that loyalty is everything, and history with someone is just so much more important than those niggly little problems that everyone has in relationships. The covert narcissist knows that your loyalty can be manipulated, and they'll actually reward your loyalty with these rare moments or breadcrumbs of warmth, only to rip it away from you again. And this type of intermittent reinforcement just strengthens that trauma bond, keeping you stuck in that endless loop of hope and despair, where this relationship becomes both your prison and your sanctuary. And of course, the narcissist is attracted to the caretaker, the fixer. They want someone who needs to fix people, to please people all the time, and take on that caretaking role in relationships. So this type of victim will feel responsible for the healing of others. They will take on that role at the expense of their own needs, and of course at the expense of the narcissist actually being accountable for fixing themselves. This caretaker victim will feel guilty when someone else is unhappy. It's up to them to make sure that no one is sad in this relationship, even if it's because they keep engaging in this shocking, toxic behavior that impacts on everyone else. It doesn't matter that the narcissist is never accountable for their actions and never seeks help to change their behavior. What matters is that they're sad and they need to make them happy again. You might say that the caretaker victim has this rescuer complex. They love fixing people who they see as broken, and they see this type of emotional work or labor as their role in any relationship. They've been conditioned to believe that that's their job, and not only is it their job, it fulfills them. They feel bad about themselves if they're not doing that. And the narcissist, the predatory covert narcissist, picks up on this. The covert narcissist will play into this type of relationship beautifully. They'll present as someone who's misunderstood. They'll share some really vague type of trauma stories to win the sympathy of this caretaker, and they'll portray themselves as just this perpetual victim of everyone else's cruelty. And the caretaker responds accordingly by working on overdrive to help the poor darling. But as you now know, the covert narcissist never actually wants to change. They just want someone else to keep investing in them. They want that person to keep trying again and again and again and continuing to fail. That's what gives the narcissist their supply, not you actually succeeding, but failing all the time and then getting back up again, because the narcissist is so important that you need to keep trying to make them happy. So these are just some of the traits, guys, that I find in the personalities of people who have been victimized by a narcissist. But when you wake up, when you have your light bulb moment because you read that name somewhere and they tick all the boxes, or you've just reached that breaking point, you will know that it was not your fault. Well, I hope you come to learn that it was not your fault. And this person actually took advantage of all the wonderful qualities that you possess, where you want to help others, for instance. They actually use those amazing qualities to abuse you with. So guys, if you recognize yourself in those traits that I went through in this episode, you are not alone. So many strong, compassionate, high-functioning people have been targeted by covert narcissists, but you can protect your energy and break free. As I said earlier, covert narcissists are drawn to the people who are exactly the opposite of them, the brightest lights, those who love deeply, super empaths, people who put the needs of others above their own, not because they're weak, but because they have empathy. So if you found yourself with a covert narcissist, it wasn't because you were weak, and it certainly wasn't because of a lack of intelligence. It meant that you actually had something pretty darn powerful that they wanted to control. Just remember, the narcissist did not choose you because you were easy to manipulate. They chose you because you had something that they did not possess and will never possess. You were authentic. And that brings us to the end of another Fake Love and Flying Monkeys episode. I hope you found that insightful, guys. If you are going through your own narcissistic abuse recovery, please reach out for a one-on-one Zoom counseling session, no matter where you are in the world. And also don't forget to get your copy of my best-selling book, Fake Love, Understanding and Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. And you will find links to my website and to order your copy of my book, both in the description. Now, on that note, guys, it's bye from me for now. Until tomorrow's episode, remember, you are worthy of love, and you are worthy of so much more than a lifetime of fake love and flying monkeys.